lethal. No attempts at establishing any sort of defensive perimeter, no mines, no barbed wire, no tank traps at all. Certainly something I'd recommend if the engineers aren't really going to do anything. Lay down some mines here, for example, or here, some barbed wire as well to make movement harder for the German troops. Tank traps as well, everything goes. Could certainly make this a much stronger position, but apparently Extraneus has not thought about it or has dismissed the thought, and we see a supply yard going up for the American troops and sticky bombs being researched for the riflemen, meaning they now have everything possible. So these are going to be quite masterfully equipped riflemen, and we see a observation post going down on the fuels point. Certainly not a bad idea, certainly going to give them a lot of fuel, and we see a sniper causing havoc alongside the western side of the American defenses on these buildings. Over the sniper is in a bad situation, really should consider getting a medipack, certainly a lot of munitions for it. Yes indeed, and we in fact have a medic pack going up for the sniper just as I mentioned it. Good job, my Knadys, and we see the Germans making a slow and cautious advance through the eastern, just carefully skirting outside the American defensive positions. And we also have Veterancy 1 up for the infantry, allowing themselves to slowly heal themselves. Snipers requiring support. Team Veterancy though, so he does not benefit at all. Looks like a assault is underway. Machine gun though catching the German troops or part of it out in the open, exposing them to further mortar fire. In fact, this is easily going to end up as a disaster if they aren't careful. And now Americans seizing this building, using their flamethrower against the German troops out in the open, causing heavy casualties. Pioneers pulling back, and we see the other part of the German attack running right into this machine gun emplacement, suppressing them. Grenadiers suffering heavy casualties, a lot of fire, and the Grenadier team has been killed, leaving a lot of dead and wounded troops in flames outside this building, and a rather uncomfortable burnt arse it looks like for this trooper. Grenades going off. German troops still continuing, although further catching fire. Horrible, horrible deaths, and really this attack looks like it has been botched. Further mortar fire ending, and they really should retreat before it begins landing among them. And we see a mine having gone off here for some reason, although not sure why. It looks like the Germans are finally pulling back after this rather... oh dear. Numerous Volksgrenadiers hit by the mortar round, leaving 3 wounded without anyone to help them. Oh, a Grenadier too. Tragic. Most tragic. Situation is certainly not looking good for the German troops at the moment. Still nothing to actually support them in an attack. Going for another sniper since the other one was apparently lost. Volksgrenadiers doing something here, although not sure why. And we see engineers trying to poke around a bit down there in the south. Returning to the north, the Germans are regrouping for another assault. Apparently not feeling that the first failed attempt was enough discouragement. Sniper moving in, not cloaked. Going to quickly end up exposed to BAR fire. Bad move, and very dead sniper very quickly. One really should not charge in with snipers, that's a bad move. Panzer Schreck going up for the German Grenadiers. Apparently expecting some sort of armor, but I'd certainly recommend getting some sort of, oh I don't know, mortar to bombard these positions, or at least drop down some smoke cover, allowing one's troops to get closer without being torn to shreds by all the automatic fire. And a forward barracks going up for the Americans, allowing them to reinforce on the spot and move infantry in right away. Still no mines, still no barbed wire, no medic station, no anything to actually provide some depth to this fortification. Half-track taking bazooka fire from the garrison rangers, certainly a bit peculiar. But with the anti-tank weapons they can certainly be used like that. Although not recommendable. And the rangers have decided to move out and go in for the kill on the half-track, which is caught out in the open, and we see a broadside on it. and the half-track catches fire, completely wrecked. Not much left of it except some wrecked iron and tatters of cloth. Rangers moving further in, wrecking the wreck. Grenades going off on the grenadiers and grenades going off on the rangers. The Wehrmacht grenade in fact doing the most damage, being behind an M9 bazooka for the German troops, and suspect they'll go for it indeed. Volksgrenadiers with a bazooka and the American machine gun once more forcing back the attackers. And still no attempt to really push through, no, how should one put it, support weapons of heavy caliber. Oh, finally getting a mortar after all these failed attacks. Major Knadys decides that it is time to get a mortar to perhaps push through once for all. Volksgrenadiers still hanging around down there, wounded with only 3 men. Perhaps should consider pulling them back for recuperating and send something down there to hold their position for a bit. Mortar setting up, perhaps finally going to bombard this and allow for the Germans to push through. Very quiet, very quiet. Yes, indeed. 80mm mortar rounds raining in on the position. Will the American pull out? Yes. No, in fact, he moves. Oh, now he finally pulls out, leaving it open, and the Americans going for this vital cutoff point. Going to force the Germans to react and move in some troops to prevent this, otherwise they'll lose lots of resources. Not reacting. Cries of support from the grenadiers, apparently not content with the current support the mortars are providing. Sturmarmery going up. Puma on the way to blaze away through the American troops and do lots of nasty things. Of course, Knadys should be careful not to move them too close to the riflemen, since the riflemen have sticky bombs. Machine gun fire hitting in on the German troops, but they do make their way through, and Rangers bypassing the machine gun, and grenade and Thompson fire taking out the machine gun position, leaving it open, and Rangers grabbing the machine gun, quickly pulling out. I suspect once the dirty deed has been done, and the rest of the Rangers continuing to take it. Certainly not a bad nor we move, and the Rangers are quick to set up in support of their brethren who are taking the point, although these Rangers really should pull out, and they do. And will the other MG42 make it out of there, or will it be taken out by the Puma? Apparently does not move it out, and in fact the auto cannon fire completely wrecks the pickup truck there behind. Rangers desperately tries to get out of there. Half track moving in to sort of try and push it, and in fact we have a motor pull up for the Americans, sorry for not noticing, and a half track machine gun opening fire, and the heavy weapons ranger has been felled by the Puma, which pulls back with a job well done. Half track getting the quad anti-aircraft machine gun. Certainly not to be used against any aircraft, but more likely against German infantry. And just in time as another German attack moves in under cover from the mortar. Perhaps time to get a Nebelwerfer if it wasn't because he had lacked the population due to this being cut off, but now he has it. Heavy machine gun fire raining in, the grenadiers quickly suppressing them and going to cause some casualties, yes indeed. Grenade going off as well. 2 kills for the half track, and 3 as a grenadier team is completely shredded by it. Puma hanging around in the west. Further mortar fire from the American mortar, which has reached veterancy 1. And we hear the first howitzer shells raining in. For no apparent reason, apparently trying to take out a Puma armored car. It certainly could work if it wasn't for the simple fact that if it's discovered, the Puma can't quickly get to safety. Perhaps moving in this? No, it probably wouldn't do anything either. American riflemen moving in, going to sticky bomb it. Quad machine gun opening fire on the Puma, but not doing anything. American riflemen though suffering heavy casualties, but they do manage to damage the engine of the Puma. Rangers moving in on their own on the west, completely without support. And looks like this Puma is going to be wrecked. Another sticky bomb on it, causing some casualties among the Americans, but going out of control and crashing into the garage. The Rangers still holding the line, but now with more concerted effort from the German forces. But what is this? The Quad 50 half-track moving in, opening fire on the German Volksgrenadiers, causing some casualties. Although they are trying to discourage it using bazooka fire, and indeed they do manage to do some damage to the half-track, but it manages efficiency 1. Impressive, not something you see a lot actually. And the Volksgrenadiers retreat while the half-track skirts away to victory. We see another Puma being sent to replace the lost one. Germans once more gathering up on the assault positions, ready to once more try and attack the rather heavily defended American positions. Quiet for the moment, in fact. Very quiet, but he has gone for the Blitzkrieg doctrine and is going straight for the urban assault support, meaning Stu 42. Will he actually use it, or will he ignore it? Could certainly be used to try and break through the American positions with some heavy howitzer fire. Might succeed, in fact, quite nicely, since there is no anti-tank assets to actually speak of for the Americans. We see the Rangers moving up once more, only one bazooka left, in fact, and we see it. Stu 42, pride of the fatherland, moving in with heavy weapons to deal vicious blows to the American defensive positions, in fact, and we see the Puma moving in to